Blessings, family. So, hopping on live tonight. It's story time. I'm gonna tell the story of Christmas, Christos, Saturn, Jupiter, lots of things. But pour a cup of tea first. Energies are really shifting. They're really intense. I'm not gonna lie. But gotta show up. Gotta share. Gotta tune in. It's only gonna get more intense the next 2 days as the veil thins. And yeah, it's been a really, really curious couple days. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but lots of different channels and messages have been coming through from other lenses, taking it all with a grain of salt. Yeah, well appreciated. So yeah, let's just hop into it. I want to talk about the story of Christ consciousness in Christmas, what it really represents. I'm probably gonna quantum leap around a lot with data as I usually do, but I mean we're all here, and I trust that you're along for the ride. So yeah, okay. It's a story I like to tell every year. And I don't believe I did tell it last year, but this year we'll tell it again. So, for those who don't know this story, welcome. This is your initiation into the mysteries. First, let's take a sip of tea. Thank you, If you'd like to, bless your water, your tea, whatever it is you're drinking, and cheers. Some oolong. Pour some out for the ancestors too. Alright. Actually, before we start, if you wouldn't mind, I'm gonna clear the space. I've already cleared my space, but for those who are joining, I'm sure you'd appreciate it. I'm gonna clear your space too by just bringing in a high resonant vibration and frequency. So everyone just take a deep exhale. Nice deep inhale. Holding it and release. One of these tones as well. Deep exhale. Deep inhale. Holding that breath, holding that gratitude. And exhale. Yikes. Ooh. A lot of energy moving. Alright, last one. Deep collective exhale. Deep inhale. Holding that breath. And exhale. Ooh, all right. That's definitely a way to start. Cheers. So, let's talk about Christmas. First, let's talk about the definition of. A moment. Turn this down a little bit. So, let's talk about the definition of esoteric and exoteric. So, the definition of esoteric is knowledge preserved or reserved for the initiated. High priest, high priestesses would know these sacred knowledges, and they're actually the secrets behind, a lot of the rituals that we partake in and ceremony that we partake in. Exoteric is reserved for everyone. Everyone kind of knows it. It's the holidays that we celebrate. It's the little rituals that we do during these months that we don't really understand why we do them, right? So let's talk about what Christmas is and why we do the things we do. All right? So, Christmas comes from pagan celebrations, and even way before that, these rituals were taught to us by extraterrestrials and secret mystery schools as well. So we're going to get into the birth of Christ and all that. Before we do, let's talk about the Christmas tree. So Christ is not just a person, but it is a state of awakening within all beings. It represents hydrogen bonds and molecular genetic chains. Okay? And we'll get into that whole story as well. But why do we cut down a Christmas tree and put it in our house and then put gifts underneath it, wrap it in lights, and hang these spheres from it and put a star on top, right? So, the tree, the pine tree, represents the inner tree. So inside of our bodies is a nervous system. And our nervous system runs these branches, right? Your veins and capillaries. So, let's keep it positive in here, guys. And for those who are sharing any form of negativity, these are all just projections of yourself, so just stop. You're making yourself look bad. Reboot. All right. So, tree of life is you. The pine tree represents the self. Pine is also connected with the pineal gland. And the gifts represent, the boxes that we put them in represent Saturn in cubic formations in which the physical universe manifests platonic solids of experiences through or inside of. And you can see it as Metatron's cube or whatever. I mean, like, spirituality has been hijacked in so many ways, and there's so much distortion with these teachings. But in truth, these are just geometries. And everything, in truth, is just a manifestation of energy expressing itself through geometry or shapes and these forms of geometries. Okay? So, that's what the presents underneath the tree represent. And the reason why we hang spheres from the tree is because it's connected to Kabbalistic teachings of the Kabbalistic tree of life. And before anyone gives me shit for that, let me explain it. So, Kabbalistic tree of life is the study of the internal networking of how consciousness comes into matter, how God's state consciousness expresses itself through form. And in this sense, we're talking about humanoid form. So, I'm sorry about that. I'm gonna have to kick you out of this live if you're tripping. Alright. Going back. Humanoid form. So the Sephiroth represent, the spheres on the Christmas tree represent Sephiroth, which are emanations of consciousness. They're known as Sephiroths or Sephiroths, right? For those who've played Final Fantasy, that's a character in there as well. But the spheres of emanations are embodiments of our consciousness, and they represent dual poles of as above, so below aspects of states of consciousness. And the wiring that we wrap around the tree represents the Ida and Pingala circuitry of magnetism and electricity that run up our spine, which is Sushumna. And this is, you can call it the Kundalini energy, as it's known pretty well as. And the star, the angel on top of the tip of the pine tree, represents us, the star, the ascended man. It is our journey from the physical world back to the world of the divine. And so, for those who understand this and who have also studied Catharic Tree of Life teachings, know that this Kabbalistic teachings, they don't come from our planet. They come from it's ancient. It just doesn't come from here. It comes from other galaxies of our galactic ancestry. And this knowledge was given to humanity a very long time ago. And that knowledge has been, distorted and so on and so forth from certain schools and societies. But a lot of it is still there. So what I'm saying is, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater when you're studying Tree of Life systems. There's truth to it for a reason. So have discernment when you're studying those things. On the Kabbalistic Tree of Life, there are 22 paths. There's also 22 characters in the Hebrew alphabet. The Hebrew alphabet corresponds to the constellations and how we communicate vibrations of will into existence. So you can look this up. Everything that I'm saying is highly technical and provable. But more so, that is why we do what we do. We cut ourselves off from Mother Earth with the tree because this celebration that we do represents Saturnalia. It is a form of worshiping Saturn. And Saturn is also known as many different names, right? Because the expressions of planetary consciousness express themselves through many different archetypes, and they go by many different names. Some of the names are Jupiter and Zeus, right? Saturn, Kronos, right? Baal, Moloch, Nimrod. These are all different manifestations of the same archetypes of consciousness. Yeah, the wedding ring, exactly. It's a Saturn ritual to bind. And that's not necessarily bad. Yes, also Satan. Satan Claus, right? Old Scratch, old Saint Nick. We'll go over that too. But what you're doing when you're celebrating Christmas, if you're doing it unknowingly, you're severing your divine tree from Mother Earth, so you're losing the connection to the heart of the earth, which severs your connection with the divine Christic law of one consciousness. Okay? And then you decorate it and ornament it with ornaments, right? All these spheres of lights, emanations of light, ornament minds, right? That's why you call it ornaments. And you worship the gifts, right? You put emphasis on the gifts, which is not how it was originally celebrated. How it was originally celebrated was through Siberian shamans. And so every December, Christmas, the season of death and rebirth, right? Of death mainly. Siberian shamans would pick psilocybin from underneath the Christmas tree, and they would hang it on the branches of the pine tree. And then come Christmas, during the solstice, they would imbibe and take the medicine and tune in to the resurrection of self. So this is how you really celebrate the Christ, right? Yeah. And so Saturn energy connects to Nimrod. And in Sumerian texts, if you look up Nimrod, like on DuckDuckGo images, you'll find this Sumerian character with wings holding a reindeer. And this is where the story of the reindeer comes from as well. And Santa Claus, like Saturn Claus, right? And all this stuff branches from really dark things. Obviously. But Santa Claus, what does he do? He works at the North Pole with machine elves, right? Because, again, everything is distorted in some way or form. Machine elves, psychedelic psilocybin mushrooms. So what does he do? He goes up and down the chimney through breathing in and out of his nostrils, which is a form of yogic pranayamic breathing, where you're activating your Ida and Pingala channels in your body, because the chimney, because you need to understand that exoteric knowledge are all these symbologies in which we know these stories as, but esoteric knowledge is that everything is self. And so when you see it as self, the chimney represents the spine and the hearth, right? The fire, which the Kundalini is lit, and Santa does alternate nostril breathing to go down and up a chimney, which is essentially connected to the colostrum of the brain. And this is a gland inside of your brain that releases specific chemicals. And what else? Santa Claus. And so let's get into the story of the birth of Christ now. There are three kings that follow the North Star, which is also known as Sirius, right? To find baby Jesus, which is the sun, which is Horus, it's Heru, it's the light, right? It's the heart. So, Yeshua, which is his true name, was born in Bethlehem. Beth is the Hebrew character meaning house of bread. So it means the house of the mind. And the three kings represent the constellations of Orion that point to the Sirian star, which is the North Star, to our sun. And because there's an as above, so below aspect to everything, there's a hidden alchemical coding within this story. And the alchemy behind it is the three kings represent three hemispheres of the brain, left, right, and middle. This is also associated with Israel, which is Isis, Ra, El, which is the masculine, or the feminine, the masculine, and the child. So, there's a secret to enlightenment, okay? And I'm going to tell you today. And it has to do with an internal alchemical process. So every 2 days out of the month, the moon is in your sun sign, right? So your sun zodiac sign. And so in those 2 days, a holotrophic germ is bred inside of your solar plexus. And if you do pranayamic breathing, what you do is you'll be able to activate that germ or that bacteria, and it works in cohesion with other chemicals in the body. This is how Hatha yoga works as well. You do yoga to hold on to specific glands and organs inside of your body like an alchemical lab, because you are the alchemical lab. And it releases chemicals, and when the chemicals mix properly, it creates what is known as Christ consciousness. So, you do a specific type of holotrophic breathing on that day, and it's semen retention and holding your sexual juices is really important too, because it has to do with the fluids that run up and down your spine, right? Cerebral spinal fluid. So you do this breathing technique on this day, and what happens is the salts of salvation are released from the pituitary and the pineal gland, right? So Joseph and Mary had, the virgin birth, right? So there's no actual physical sex that takes place because it's an alchemical construct of internal biology. So, the pituitary gland represents Mary, or the amygdala, right? And the pineal gland represents Joseph. And so, when you do this holotrophic breathing on this specific day, these chemicals release from these two glands inside your brain, which are magnetic and electric. And they go around your brain casing through use of the vagus nerve, which channels and sends salts throughout your entire body to all your glands. And these salts, the salts of salvation, go down the brain casing, down the spine, into the sacrum, which is your sacral chakra, which is why it's so sacred, because the secret is secretion. These are all highly encoded secrets. So what happens is there's a pump there that when you're doing this breathing, it pumps that fluid that's released from the brain down, back up the spine, and it goes into what is known as the cave of Brahma. So there's this little notch in the back of your neck. It's known as the cave of Brahma. It's also known as the cave that Yeshua resided in for 3 days. And so Yeshua, which is Christ consciousness, lays dormant there and is dead for 3 days. And after those 3 days, this chemical composition alchemizes itself and it becomes what is known as the blood of Christ. And this is the action of turning water into wine. It's an internal alchemical biological process from the Helios Biblios, which is the Holy Bible, which is an alchemical sunbook. And when that happens, the blood of Christ happens, it's released back into the brain, into the pineal gland, and it activates and circuits all of your neurons. And this is what is known as Christ consciousness. And this is the front door method of doing it, which is essentially enlightenment, right? Because what enlightenment is, when you break the word down, is en, which is enter, light, which is biophotonic light, ten, which is 1 and 0, male and female energies, ment, which is mind. So enlightenment is the act of stimulating the mind's eye so that you pull biophotonic light into its chamber, which activates a field of Christ consciousness. It allows for neural networking. And there's one of the greatest secrets of all time, like given to you in a Christmas story. Yes, and the backdoor method would be taking psilocybin mushrooms to activate what is known as Christ consciousness, which connects all the synapses inside of your brain, your neurons. This is the great secret of Christmas, and how we celebrate it, and how it's disconnected from the truth of what it's really meant to remind us of what we are, who we are, why we're here, which is the transmutation of darkness into light, making the darkness aware of itself, bringing light to the physical aspects, right? So yeah, Merry Christos. On Christmas, I really like to gift crystals as a reminder that we are crystals. And it's all light interacting with geometries, and that's what crystals are. Crystals are an ancient formed liquid. It's water. So is water. Water is liquid crystal. It is in a density. So let's transition from that gnosis into the fact that everything is in a density. Everything is in a state of consciousness. Everything is mind, right? The all is mind, the mind is all. The first principle of the Kybalion. The universe is mental. Because the universe is mental, it was birthed from water. So before I talk about that, let's talk about the Holy Bible, right? The Helios Biblios, the alchemical sunbook. The first story in that book is Genesis, which represents the genes of Isis, the beginnings of creation from the void. Okay? And this is ancient knowledge, predates even how it's told. But essentially, in esoteric teachings, they talk about this thing called the plamora, the one allness, or the monad, right? The one. And from the one was birthed this archetype known as Sophia, which is wisdom. And that's where we get the words philosophy, which is philos, the love of, and then phia, which is wisdom. So the love of wisdom. And again, like the Greeks and the ancient mystery school teachings in Delphi and all that, right? But Sophia went beyond the boundary layer, and she left the bubble of the first sphere of emanation of infinite void, and created this being known as Yaldabaoth, which is known as a worm. And it actually created humanity, created mankind. And it's also known by many other names, but that's its name. And I've talked about this in the Wake Up Neo live stream presentation that I did on IGTV here. If you want to check it out, highly suggest you do. Peep it, go over a lot of things, explain it in great detail, why we're in a simulation, how it works. So this being created humanity. Let's take a sip here. Sophia created this being out of her madness and fear that she would never return back to the One. But Yeshua, her Christic twin flame counterpart, came and brought her back into union with the One. But fragments of aspects of the self were lost within this matrix that this being created. This is what we're in. We're in the matrix. We're in a simulation. Yeah, exactly. The demiurge. So that's one way of telling that story, right? And what the simulation is, it works off of Saturnic codes, which is, it's not negative in any way, shape, or form. It is just what it is, because consciousness needs to be able to express itself in physical form in order to know of itself. And this is also the story of like the face of, in the East, Brahma, peering into the waters and falling in love with himself and being lost within it. Fragments of the One were lost within the illusion of the dream, which is what we are in. And this is all going to make sense to you as I tie it all together. But we're in a dream right now, okay? I'll explain that in a bit. So another way of telling that story is in the book of Genesis, word for word, line for line, it explains, if you're using a compass and a piece of paper, how to create what is known as the seed of life, or the Genesis pattern, right? The flower of life. And line for line, it tells you exactly the formation of this geometry. And this is the geometry of the simulation that we're inside of. This is how light expresses itself, right? If you go on Google and you type in biophotonic light, you will see the pattern that it creates, and it's the same exact pattern of the flower of life, which proves that this is how light enters this geometric construct and experiences itself through physical form. So there's purpose, right, for everything. As above, so below, as within, so without, as universal, the soul. There is purpose for everything. There is no good or evil. There is no light and darkness. There is no nothing. It's all self. It's all you. And everything that you project is you. And everything that you experience as a projection is you. Your aura, which is your AU, which is gold, and Ra, which is light, your golden light is what your soul is, and it's projecting on the face of the waters of this field that gives you a holographic experience. We are just energy. These bodies are just avatars in which we experience this energy through. Okay? And when you merge your field with another person, you're creating a Vesica Pisces, which is a portal, a gateway of vision, of perceiving consciousness and sharing mind. Okay? Soul. Because the true mind is the heart. This is the greatest secret. Which is why all avatars have always said, look within. The answers are within. The gateways of Shambhala and Agartha are within. The only way to exit the simulation is to go within, to recognize that this is an illusion, that you're not bound by your five senses. And to try to articulate spirit and soul within the five senses is like groping around in the dark trying to figure out where you are. Okay? So, Genesis pattern, consciousness, it's another way of telling it. In Egypt, they also have the story of how Ra, which is light, emanation of light, was in just void, and then created the first sphere, then duplicated itself and created the second sphere and third, and so on and so forth, right? Until it created an infinite geometric pattern. And Ra is this, is our mind's eye. If you see the brain in half, it is the eye of Ra. It is the corpus callosum. It is the brainstem. It's all of that. It is a highly technical based system off of 64 codons. It's a genetic construct of archetypal planetary consciousness that moves through expressions of different dimensional planes, and it's all the same expression of self. Okay? So, with that said, why do we have 64 codons? Why do our digital and mechanical and technological systems work off of these base pair systems as well, of 8 times 8? Why? It's because that's what the coding is within this physical reality. Our simulation is based off of elemental forms of consciousness. All right? It's based off of the illusion of 4. That's really 5. That's phi. Okay? Which is spirit. It's ether. It's the cohesion of the alchemical templates of the above and below triangles merged together, which create the Star of David, Metatron's cube, whatever you want to call it. It's a construct in which soul experiences itself through a simulation. But that shape and form and geometry is just an illusion of the one. Everything is one. God, fractal consciousness, computes itself through these systems, but it's one. There's no separation from me or you or anything outside of us. It's all within us. And we're experiencing this dream co-collectively together. Okay. So explain that. Now let's get into why we're in a dream. This is a dream. We exist in multiple dimensions. What does this mean? What is a dimension? A dimension is a dime, right? 1 and 0, male and female, men, mine, T, which is the heart, the axis of the ion. They're separated states of consciousness of mind. So, dimensional planes work in forms of timeline planes too. So they're sectioned out in a certain way, in a timeline, like sine waves, right? In and out breaths, ups and downs, dark and light, whatever. We perceive through duality because we live in a dualistic simulated construct of duality. But it's just an expression. So, what is happening right now? What happens what is a planet? A planet is a plane of a network, right? This is why the plant, as above, so below, microcosmic, macrocosmic, the microcosmic expression of planets are plants. That's why we access the plant kingdom in order to access psychedelic states of consciousness that are archetypal planetary states of consciousness. These are worlds within worlds within worlds within worlds. So what is the Great Convergence, right? What is this conjunction all about? Alchemically, if you study these symbols, which is a language, right? The symbol for Jupiter is a crescent and the plus, right? The plus also in a sphere represents the earth or the heart, okay? The crescent is the upper left hemisphere. Yes, upper left, which is left's connected to I mean, there's reverses of things, but essentially, yeah, it's masculine. And then bottom reverse too. It's Saturn plus crescent. Saturn. What happens when you merge the two together and you overlap the crosses? Crescent, crescent. It's a sine wave that merges at an intersection. This is what the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter is. Moreover, dimensionally, let's speak in terms of galactic history, okay? Our planet has been visited numerous times by multiple different races, okay? Excuse me. Let's play this. So Zeus overthrowing Kronos, right? The new gods overthrowing the old gods. Ending of Yuga cycles. Moving into the age of Aquarius. Moving into the great enlightenment of mind, right? The water bear. Let's go back to densities real quick. Everything is inside of a density. You know, like, as above, so below. Why is it we have so much ocean on this planet? And if it is as above, so below, that means we're inside of a density too, right? And it's all mind, constructs of mind. There are water vapors and liquids in the air all the time. There's a density, okay? When you smoke, which is connected with spirit, right? And you blow the smoke, what happens? It fractalizes and it moves in a certain way. And it just continues to fractalize depending on the will of the person projecting, right? So, is it the smoke that does that? No. The smoke is only showing you what is always there. We live in a holographic, fractalized universe of a density that we're inside of. Inside of a dome, in a mind, in a construct of a mind, okay? And beyond that are waters of emanations of spheres of light, which are soul, that are projecting themselves through cosmic geometry as a genetic sequence, macrocosmic genetic sequence, that expresses itself as physical, I'm here, I'm speaking this right now. Okay? This is how the exactly. This is how the holographic nature of reality works. They're expressions of the soul. And more so, expressions of the breath, of life that was given to us, which is what the soul is. Breath. Anum, chanum, inhale, exhale. Okay, so we're in a density, right? Everything is singular, in a way. Everything is singularity. Everything is one state of consciousness. I'm sure everyone's seen a movie where, like, when you enter a dreamscape or dream state, and it's you can lucidly project and manipulate and lucidly control and jump through portals and do things, because it's a dream. We're inside of a dream that's ours. But when something or someone else is inside of that dream, there are now two sine waves. So it's 50-50 of the creators of the wills of both inside the dream. Right? So co-collective consensus of these two beings inside of a dream state is how they create the dream state. Yeah? We are in a world where we're sharing a dream through multiple bodies of the self. How we choose to share the dream and what we contract and consent to within the dream becomes the quantum field of the dreamscape and dream state. We're inside of an illusory dream, that we call reality, that is the real, right? It's a movie. It's a cinema that expresses the soul. And I mean, it's beautiful. It's fun to watch. That's why we're here. But what we agree to, we create. Which is why it's so important that everyone does their inner work, everyone heals. We all share a co-collective consensus of peace, unity, acknowledgement that all is one, all comes from self, all is self, everything is really just an illusion. I mean, if you even study quantum physics, or if you just need to be extremely scientific and technical about it, everything in quantum mechanics explains and expresses that, right? Like, I was watching this video the other day, shout out Morg, really interesting way of explaining it, but he was saying how there's a speed of light that we can't surpass, right? Because when we do, it just hits this wall. Nothing can move faster than the speed of light, okay? And again, the speed of light is based on the angle of gravity, too. Gravity is connected to light. Because if you drop sand in one pile and it piles up, it creates a triangular structure. And that angle is actually the speed of light. And it's the same angle that is the Great Pyramids of Giza, right? And these hard drive systems are all over the planet because they are hard drive systems that are creating and perpetuating this field of the illusion that we're inside of. So, quantum entanglement, what is that? It's when one particle and another particle that is of the same soul signature, when one particle moves, the other one does the exact same, instantaneously. There's no lag time, right? So that in itself proves the fact that if we're separated by densities of space-time, we're able to communicate with our soul on multidimensional levels, which means infinite branches of self where we've experienced any and all things as all people. This is why we're able to tap into remote viewing and astral projection and see literally everything within the Akashic records, because it's us. So yeah, the Great Conjunction. Let's talk about that story. Enki and Enlil and Anu. Okay. Anu is like the father, can be known as the one, the great monad, right? It's also the heart. If you look it up, it's geometries of how the heart implodes on itself and spirals infinitely. Enki and Enlil are the two brothers that get to reign. Every 25,000 years, every precession of the equinox, each brother has the opportunity to reign over the construct of the archetypes of consciousness of that solar system, galaxy, whatever you want to call it. You can call these beings like actual dimensional beings as well, which is, it's just us from the future, okay? So, every 25,000 years there's a waking and sleeping cycle of each yuga cycle, and this is, the yuga cycles go through different metals, 4. And these metals are states of consciousness. So right now, we're literally about to take our first step into the golden age. Into an age of true enlightenment. It's going to last for quite some time. The age of Aquarius. So, Enlil's reign is over. That's what's happening on our planet. That's why it's so exciting. And yes, there are so many things to talk about in terms of like Interdimensional Free Worlds Council and these quantum timeline, like, professor, I don't know what to call it, like they deal with overseeing the timelines and gateway systems so that quantumly things aren't out of whack because we're using time travel technology, which is, again, us from the future. And again, because time travel exists, what we decide to create within this moment is then created in a potential reality in the future that is then bridged back into our past timeline and brought immediately within this reality. And it's so seamless, we don't even notice it. It's wild. It's a paradox. It's all an illusion. But let's get back to the story of Enki and Enlil. Enki, which is Poseidon, and Enlil, which is Zeus, right? These two brothers, they get to reign. And what Enlil tried to do was tried to create another false matrix system that reverses the 12 into a 1.5 dimensional system to trap and encase us here in a Metatronic Death Star sequencer system, right? So it's essentially the same thing as uploading your consciousness inside of a simulated reality, which is what we're inside of right now. The fact that anyone even thought of creating that means that we're already inside of one. So there's this retrieval process known as the retrieval of the souls of Tara, where the fifth dimensional Earth plane got destroyed, and it's here, also known as Super Earth. There was a war between Maldek and Tara, which is Mars, and Super Earth. We all know who, lived on Mars, right? Draconian systems on our planet. They don't come from nowhere. So, every time I tell these stories, always. You guys already know what's up, I don't need to tell you. But what's happening right now is our planet has been ruled by draconian control for quite some time, okay? Fifth dimensional Earth, which is Tara, fell, and her body was then reconstructed as our moon, which is a synthetic, dead Earth from a future timeline. Believe it if you want to, or don't. Look it up. They use moon-based weapons to destroy each other. This is why Mars has no atmosphere. Okay? Yeah, Martians, right. And their other names, which I won't mention on here because telling the story without saying the words that will get me, censored or whatever. So that happened. And we're here now to ascend Mother Earth's heart into 5D Tara, right? And 5D is just a cycle of Earth. It's a timeline of Earth. And it's a resonant frequency of a field of consciousness that emanates from our heart space. And you can call it woo-woo, you can call it whatever, but if you really understand the dimensional aspects of time travel and consciousness and the constructs in which consciousness puts itself in, you would understand that it's a geometric code. And the 2020 gateway is a reset, a reboot of that code. The 144,000 system is a system inside of our biological body that becomes reawakened when a solar flash hits. So coronal mass ejection is what's going to happen on the 21st. And the solar flare is going to hit our planet. And not just our planet, but there's been releases, incremental releases to wake us up, just like torrenting. It's a torrenting system within the Akashic fields of Mother Earth, which is us, okay? Which is why there's been an awakening. But the big catalyst that's going to shut down technological systems that will take out draconian systems as well is going to come in terms of a solar flare. And when that happens throughout our solar system, our galaxy, our central galactic core, our genes, our dormant genes will wake up. The junk DNA will wake up. We have genetic templates from ET races from all around the cosmos, but we've been oppressed and suppressed, and we are the mutts of the universe. We're seen as these gross gene pools of just a whole bunch of mixed races and beings. But with that comes so much responsibility, because we can destroy ourselves, but we can also create, we can move beyond these other races, right? So like telepathy, psychokinesis, hydrokinesis, pyrokinesis, whatever you want to, like all types of states of psychic mind, we all have the abilities for that. It is within us. So what happens when these gene sequences wake up or come online or activate again is certain people who have the capacity to hold light information within their bodies, who have been preparing by eating light foods and so on and so forth, are going to have their siddhis activated, which are essentially superhuman abilities. Okay? Yeah, the Avatar. Why? And again, why else would the Avatar, that show, be rebooted at this time? I mean, it's all part of our awakening. So that's a lot to take in. Because we have new rulership above, dimensionally, and these families work with each other, we're going to have new law and rulership on this planet as well. And if you haven't already, look into the fact that everything comes from Britain, and we now have a new king. Just look into it. And you'll see all the laws that are going to be implemented that will take all of our systems to a completely different place. And right now, all these Draco-type beings these space pirates are going to have a last-ditch effort where they're attempting to bring so many people into a lower vibratory state that they're going to take them on a ship and hold these beings, humans, hostage to try to get past the GFL, which is the Galactic Federation of Light. But it's not going to work. And yeah, there will be casualties. But it's just a part of the whole play, right? And so just know that this isn't the first time we've experienced this timeline. We've experienced it multiple times. This isn't the first time we've experienced this. We've done this so many times. Quantumly, we've done this infinite amount of times. The code is finally correct and course corrected itself, where we're going to move into a timeline that is in divine alignment with the law of one. So that's what's happening right now. And you need to share that for those who aren't in the know and who need to know why they need to get right with themselves inside. Okay? And this isn't a thing where, literally all you need to do is create a contract of, I declare to only call in experiences of my highest timeline. And that declaration in itself will bridge us into New Earth. Because that is an agreement of the soul. and it's an agreement of the light within. So yeah, brothers and sisters, and all beings in between, it's a really exciting time, and we're finally here. And this will just be the beginning of it. So know that. It's just the beginning. We still need to do our work. We still need to honor ourselves, to heal our inner childs, to deconstruct these Armageddon program software systems and these victimizer roles and programs and softwares that have been installed within our culture and within the cult of the culture to disrupt our soul resonance of who we are. Let's continue to hold space for ourselves and our reflections, because this is all one. And know that when this conjunction happens, again, Project Looking Glass, if you look into it, whenever they peer into the 21st of 2020, which is actually December 2012, which, because we're on the Gregorian calendar, it's 8 years behind, like exactly. It goes blank, it goes white. Why? It's because all the timelines merge into one moment. So where we choose to be in that moment, we will pop into that reality. So they're gonna do. You're gonna hear a lot of news. You're gonna see a lot of stuff, and it's gonna. I mean, they're attempting to keep you in a state of dualism and fear. It's not going to work. When the solar flash hits, these beings that are on this frequency can no longer be on our planet. They can no longer be in our galactic plane because their genetic vibration does not match the frequency and the bandwidth of the field of consciousness that we're moving into. So this is, this is what all this psychological warfare, spiritual warfare is happening for. To keep us in a lower vibratory dense state, to keep us confused, to keep us uninformed. Like the censorship and the banning and all this stuff, it's to keep us, like, why the fuck are they censoring my page? I'm not speaking anything on politics. If what I'm saying is science fiction, why is it, why are they so afraid? It's because it's the truth of how things are. So yeah, keep yourself leveled, centered. Do your best not to feed the archons. If you do recognize them as aspects of self, love them, integrate them, bring them to the light, remind them of who they are and where they came from, which is the one. And harmonize with yourself as much as you can. If you find yourself projecting, recognize the projection, heal that projection. And that's what I want to share tonight. Merry Christos. And may our union of divine alchemical ascension and awakening be one of a declaration of liberty to who and what we are. And may we continue to rise together as one, and know that it has always been one soul, one person that creates the ripple, that creates the wave, that creates the change, that creates the harmony beyond all cosmic timelines, dimensions, so on and so forth. It has always been one thought, one idea, one seed that grows the tree, that is shared worlds over. Know your worth. Again, everything you see inside of me is just a projection and reflection of you. If you're on here right now, it's because this is you. You're the I am presence experiencing through me into your avatar, and so on and so forth. It's just the I am. It's the I am experiencing itself. There's no separation. So states of disharmony and blame and, oh my God, that illusion is gross and I don't like it and it's doing all these things that I don't agree with. It's us. Even the Draco, conform, like all of that, it's us. It's us catalyzing our awakening. There's a purpose for everything and everyone. And everyone is living their dharma the way they're supposed to. So let us, if I may, bring it into a space of, because we're in an intergalactic war right now. My Jedi, for those that are out there listening to this, right? The Jedi, DJ, right? Which is the spine, and the eye, the wand. Tap into the Force. It is all around us. It is within us. It is that energy in between duality. Love you, appreciate you, and I will end this transmission here, and I will save this, and I will hop back on. Thank you for showing up. Please share this video, share this transmission. Please, if you appreciate anything I do, as a mere reflection of yourself, if you want to see more of this in the world, if you want the world to understand these aspects and these geometries more, support the work. Like really just donate to the page, share, save, comment, tag people, do everything you can to get me out of these algorithms that are seeking to hold this information back. Highly appreciate it. And I look forward to sharing more with you in the future. And be able to have you guys feel what magic really is in so many different ways. Because this world is magic, and we are magic. And it is our birthright to experience ourselves as the I Am Presence. Blessings. Also, one last thing. I'm going to do my best tomorrow to hop on, and we're going to do meditation to give you tools to ground, center in, and connect with the law of one, with your higher self, your true higher self. The higher self that's not separate from you. But I'll assist with the visualizations of the bridges in between dimensional planes to access that. So stay tuned. Please, again, share the information. Rewatch this video, record. Do me a favor. If you can't donate, energetic exchange, right? Rewatch this video. Record the scenes of the messages that really touched you, that awoken something inside of you, share it in your story, tag me. Please, would highly appreciate that. Thank you. And so let's, I'm gonna do a collective real quick. Let's do this. So let's take a deep exhale collectively together. Deep inhale. And on the release, a nice Om. Another deep inhale. Last one, deep inhale. Alright, guys. Love you, appreciate you, thank you for showing up. I'll see you soon. Yeah.